Last night with the Lakers looking to bring brooms to Houston. LeBron and company taking on a Durantless Rockets team in Game 4. But this would be the theme of the night. LeBron James and the Lakers turning it over. LeBron at the age of 41, having played 45 minutes the other night. LeBron turned it over 8 times by himself last night, Alan.
That was a major part of the problem. He called them pick sixes, and that's what they turned into. Quick scores off of those live ball turnovers. The recipe for disaster for the Lakers.
I honestly thought they might load manage him in this game after he played that many minutes, and they had the quick turnaround, and they had the 3-0 lead. There's LeBron with a miss. This was a big night for Reed Shepherd. Like, you leave him a little space, and he's knocking down a three.
It's a big night for the starters. Everybody without KD in the lineup, everybody contributed offensively. They had balanced scoring, and it was necessary.
Lakers had 23 turnovers in the game. There's one of them. Here comes Şengün. He had 19 and 6. Rockets a 21-point lead. Here's a big moment in this game. Next Rocket possession, they're up 19. DeAndre Ayton is going to get thrown out for this. They're going to call this a flagrant 2. Did you like that call?
I don't love the flagrant 2. It's a flagrant 1 for sure because of the head contact with the elbow, but it didn't look intentional. KD's, of course, Kevin Durant waving bye-bye, but they need to wave him back into the game.
Yeah, at that point, the game was already decided.
17 steals.
Rockets go on and win it big. Lakers 23 turnovers. LeBron 10 points, no threes, 8 turnovers of his own. He scored just 10 points, 2 of 9. Tied for the fewest made field goals in a playoff game of his career. Also the fewest made shots in any game he's played since Game 5 of the 2014 Conference Finals against the Pacers. Here was LeBron when it was done.
Obviously, we know coming into the series, we have to protect the ball versus them, not have too many pick sixes, which we did all night. And I mean, it started with me, obviously. My turnover was unacceptable, but we do a better job with that on Wednesday. We understand that offensive rebounds for them and pick sixes is not going to be good for our ball club.
You know, it's funny. Iman Shumpert and Monica McNutt up with us here. And Shump, again, I'll start with you. You played more than 200 games with LeBron. He's 41 years old. He played 45 minutes on Friday night, and then he had a 3-0 lead. So I actually wondered yesterday whether he would even play at all. You don't sit guys, I guess, during the playoffs. But it felt that last night did not surprise me. What was your reaction to what the Laker effort last night and what happened in Houston?
Yeah, it didn't surprise me because of the way they lost. They lost turning the ball over, which I figured it was going to be a hit-or-miss game for them. Passionate couple of games, playing the first 3, going up 3-0. So much energy exuded out of LeBron James, as well as Marcus Smart. And then to see Marcus Smart and LeBron James both struggling to just, make sure that it's assists rather than turnovers, leading to Houston getting on transition, making sure they get shots up. I was happy to see Reed Shepherd because he got thrown under the bus by his coach last game. I was happy to see him play well, but the Rockets should not be able to manufacture offense outside of transition and offensive rebounds. So for the Lakers to do this, it felt like they just wanted to win at home.
Yeah, Monica, it remains an unknown whether we'll get KD back for Game 5. It's also an unknown whether the Lakers will get Austin Reeves back for Game 5, which could be the biggest sign of all. They get the 2 days break between this one and that Game 5. So what was your thought on last night, McNutt?
It was about the young Rockets proving themselves. Iman alluded to the post-game sound after Game 3. And so those guys wanted to show up. They forced 30 points off of turnovers. They actually shot the 3 ball well. And if you remember, going back to the first 2 games in particular, the 3 has been the pendulum swing in this series. And so they shoot 40% from the 3-point line. The Lakers shoot 22% from the 3-point line. Like, that's a big piece of your storyline as well. But they look, and they are, the younger team, more spry in terms of their legs and their effort. This one was about pride.
What's your takeaway, Han?
Yeah, I agree with you. That's how you load manage in the playoffs. LeBron wasn't really attacking as much early in this game. He stayed at the top of the offense. He was doing a lot of ball handling. They were jumping him a lot of times. Anytime he turned around, you could see they saw something on film and they exploited it. Alperen Şengün had an impassioned speech with his team to try to make sure that they weren't embarrassed with a sweep and make sure that they just take it one game at a time and get that home win. But for the Lakers with LeBron, those first 3 games of this series, he's averaged over 41 minutes a game, took 19 shots. He had heroic plays in Game 3 to win that game in overtime, to steal that game, because that game looked like it was over until they made big plays late. So you have to feel like now, don't mess around. If they get Austin Reeves back for Game 5 Wednesday in L.A., you've got to win that game because Kevin Durant still has to work himself back into the lineup. But if he does, that adds a different element now for the Rockets.
Friday night, I thought, dictated what happened on Sunday. Now Wednesday becomes the game. Lakers win that, they go on, and then they've accomplished what they're good. They're running into Oklahoma City next. Whoever wins this series is playing OKC next. If you watch them play right now, they're like a buzzsaw. They're a basketball buzzsaw. But there were a lot of big storylines in the NBA this weekend, and we're going to dive into them more deeply as the hour continues. Back on Get Up, back to the NBA playoffs. Yesterday evening, Sixers hosting the Celtics. Joel Embiid back in the lineup for Philly early first quarter. He would score his first bucket of the game right there, Alan Hahn. He had 26 and 10, but for the most part, it was not his night.
It was not his night. It was not the Sixers' night, but it was Peyton Pritchard's night off the bench, went for 32.
Peyton Pritchard was ridiculous yesterday. There was 1-3. Here comes another three. Celtics an early 5-point lead. They would go on an 11-0 run. Oh, by the way, Jason Tatum just looking so comfortable.
Yeah, again, this is a guy that's coming off Achilles, and he's working his way now to a point where that looks like the JT everybody remembers. By the way, don't let Peyton Pritchard shoot late in shot clock and at the end of quarters because this happens.
Peyton Pritchard had 18 points in the first half. Celtics led by 18 at the break. No one has ever done that better than he does, closing out quarters and halves. 3 minutes left in the third. Celtic lead is 21. It's Tatum. It's Pritchard. Pritchard had 32 points, 6 threes.
And that was a big part of it. The bench scoring was huge. When he came in the game, things completely changed. And obviously Tatum looking like Jason Tatum makes you think this Boston team is easily the team to beat in the East.
He had 30.7 rebounds, 11 assists. Joel Embiid could only shake his head. Celtics obliterate the Sixers last night. And Joel Embiid, look, this is the storyline this morning. He finished with the second worst plus-minus of anyone in this game. Sixers were outscored by 25 points in his 34 minutes. He gave up as a defender 7 of 11 shooting as the primary defender. And maybe the most damning of all, in that first half last night, Tyrese Maxey only took 3 shots. So the Sixers went completely out of the offense that had them steal a game early and had them looking competitive in this series. And I got Shump and Monica up. But Alan, for those who were not with us earlier, I promised you we'd have a little more time here. Your thoughts on the way they handled the Embiid return?
Yeah, they handled it terribly. I mean, it was the worst thing you could do. Now, in this league, you want to celebrate players who want to play and be available for their team. So there's nothing about Embiid and how he shouldn't play. If he's healthy enough to play, of course he should. But does he have to start? Does he have to take all the shots? Did he have to have the second highest usage rate in a game in the playoffs this season? More than Shea, more than Brunson, more than Cade Cunningham? How is that when you haven't played in 2 weeks? Come off the bench, be available, and how about get a rebound, which your team couldn't do in that first half? None of this made sense. And Joe Mazzulla, twisting his mustache like he does, saw him and goes, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to put him in defensive action. Every single possession they had. Come here, bring him over here, and let's get him to switch. Because you know what he doesn't know? He doesn't know the defensive rotations. He had no idea where he was going. This didn't make sense. This hurt the Sixers. Obviously, the intent was for him to play to help them, but this did not work because you empowered him too much. You catered to him too much when the franchise player is Maxey, and he should have been the guy that you focused on, not Embiid. Come off the bench, help the team that way. Do not start and dominate the game. Made no sense.
Okay, well, listen, I love the passion, and candidly, I can't disagree with the word you just said. And Shump seems to love it up early out there in L.A. But, Shump, look, you played 200 games in your life with LeBron James. You played with major stars. Joel Embiid is a superstar in this league. So take me through that. He says, I want to come back and play. He wants to go back and be Joel Embiid. How does a team handle that circumstance? Because to Alan's point, it seemed to the eye test as though they'd have been better off minimizing him, at least at some point in that game. But he's out there. How do you handle a situation like that?
Well, as a player, you definitely want to be able to have the conversation to have with Embiid to take accountability for not knowing the game plan or not knowing the rotations, not having as much pop in his step. But you also, as the other guys on the team, have to understand we're going to hide him this game. We're going to have to be maniacs defensively to hide him this game because he has sat out 2 weeks with the appendix problem. We have seen Joel Embiid come and help this team. We've seen them at their highest, usually led by Joel Embiid. Don't get me wrong, Maxey and BJ Edgecombe have done an unbelievable job being their backcourt. But for us to look at Philly seriously, we all knew Joel Embiid had to play well. It's just tough coming back after sitting out for 2 weeks, coming back against a Boston Celtics team that plays 9-10 guys, going to get it off to the races and play by 3.
Monica, help me with it here, because I don't disagree with a word Allen said, and yet there is a part of me that understands that this is kind of a complicated area when a player of his stature comes back and says, oh, I'm back to save the day. And now you want to say to him, listen, big fella, we're actually better off if we don't do that. How do you think they handled it, and how should they have handled it?
Maybe I'm the only woman in this, or maybe I'm being a little bit naive. You tell him he can't start, or you pull him so that you can have a spurt where your guys that have been hooping have an opportunity to play fast. Like, I actually think we're making this complicated. Yes, Joel Embiid was the process, was the franchise, but we got to deal in the here and now. Boston got 7 more shot attempts up than the Sixers, and that is partly because the game was playing too slow. If this was not a playoff return in this moment, all coaches make game plans based on what is needed in said matchup. So I actually think he probably should have sat a little bit more to try to let those guys play a little bit faster. But I also think this, Greeny, this wasn't ever really a game. Like, the Celtics jumped out, and maybe they were just letting him, I don't know, get lathered up in the potential hopes of trying to get the next game. But I don't think this is that big of a deal. I think this is why you have a coaching staff to evaluate what works best in ed matchup.
All right, I want to get to a couple other NBA notes while I have you here. It was a fascinating one last night. Oh, by the way, they have 3 more years left with Joel Embiid going forward. Let's play a game of Believe It or Not on some of the other playoff series. Hey, Shump, Anthony Edwards, this is brutal. He's going to be out for weeks now. So if I said Denver is going to come back and win the series from down 3-1 because Ant isn't there, do you believe it or not?
I can believe that.
You think Denver comes back and wins? Yeah. Tell me why.
I think they can. I think they can come back and win. I say that because there are times that Minnesota does have disarray. There are times that I don't understand them and they don't look like that good playoff team. But then Anthony Edwards goes out here and just fixes things offensively. Without him and Dante DiVincenzo, I think that the Nuggets have a chance just knowing their championship pedigree.
I mean, the team was looking so good until
They
lose
can win
both
this thing
those
still.
guys.
Yeah, they can win this with their defense still, and Jamal Murray and Jokic. Jokic especially is really struggling.
I know, but that's just brutal. I mean, to see Edwards go down and
absolutely.
DiVincenzo.
Who can win with their defense still?
What did you say? I'm sorry.
Minnesota.
Minnesota. They can win with their defense.
Okay,
We'll see if they can. Alan, let's go to the Pistons. If I said they're in trouble against Orlando and could be one and done in this playoff, you believe it or not?
Yeah, you better believe it. Styles makes fights. I learned that from all our NFL people when they talk about the matchups that you have in the NFL. It's the same in the NBA because this Magic team is cut from the same cloth. Big and physical. They are not ducking this fight, and they've got 2 stars right now that are taking it to the Pistons. Jalen Duren, where are you? You got to show up.
They had every opportunity to blow that game at home the other day. When Detroit came all the way back, and Orlando then closed it strong. And then last one, Monica, you're there with the Knicks. If I said they have found the formula to beat Atlanta, do you believe it or not?
I do believe it, Greeny. That does not necessarily mean it's going to be easy going forward. But basically, they gave C.J. McCollum the same treatment that Jalen Brunson was getting in terms of looking after him. And we continue to say this, Karl-Anthony Towns has to continue to be aggressive because he's a factor that the Hawks just can't guard. If the three-point shooting is back as they return home to the Garden on Tuesday, I think they're in good shape.
How about Cat? I mean, he was really the difference in game one in the fourth quarter when they pulled away and won it, and then he was the difference on Saturday night.
Everybody in New York was screaming at their televisions to Mike Brown and everybody else is let Cat be the centerpiece of this series. It's obvious the Hawks are struggling against him. When he's on the court in this series so far, the Knicks are plus 46. When he's off the court, they're minus 21. That's the only math you need to know. He is definitely the guy. And then at the top of the offense, which they started to do in this game 4, playing Brunson off the ball, but also OG Anunoby was feasting off this because Towns was finding him with passes, back cuts for easy baskets. while the Hawks are focused so much on Jalen Brunson, you've got one-on-ones that they can't handle on the other side.
You know, Shump, a basketball playoff series is such an interesting thing. Every game is a referendum on everything. So, I mean, coming off of the game on Thursday night, they're going to fire the coach and everything is fine. And then all of a sudden on Saturday night, they look dominant. What do you see in that series right now, tied it to going back to the Garden tomorrow night?
Well, I think they just restored a little bit of order in this series. I took the Knicks in 6. I think they're kind of right on schedule. I felt like they would have dropped both games in Atlanta. But I definitely think that Karl Anthony Towns just being the center, not the center so much as far as let's get him going, let's make sure that he scores, but it's the playing through him. Make sure he gets a touch so that the defense has to collapse. They have to pay him attention. They have to shift. They have to tilt. They have to do things that they are really not principled to do when you also have a Jalen Brunson on the court. Having both of those guys on the court and then having to tilt for both of them, especially when they're on opposite sides, doesn't do anything but, like we were talking about earlier, leave straight line drives and cuts wide open at the basket, which OG has really taken advantage of. Josh Hart has taken advantage of. I think that the Knicks, as long as they continue to do this, should reclaim control of this series and get this over in 6 like we all, were expecting.
Okay, I could keep talking about this forever, but I insist we talk a little golf from this weekend tour, the Zurich Classic. Did you see how this